Welcome to Peacevision. We are a portal for positive change. And today I'm really happy to invite another fellow filmmaker, a documentarian. Right now he's all the way in Germany with us. And he is Torsten Hoffmann. Torsten, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me on your show. Thanks.
Tell me about your new documentary.
Yeah, so actually the story starts 6 years ago. I made a Bitcoin documentary in 2014 called Bitcoin, the End of Money as We Know It. And this one is called Cryptopia, Bitcoin, Blockchains, and the Future of the Internet. It's basically what has happened since, the last 5-6 years. And as you know, it's been a crazy ride for the whole industry, for Bitcoin, for everything else that's going on around it.
I think a lot of people have questions, especially now in the situation that we're in, where the government here in the United States, at least, is printing money with seemingly nothing behind it. Isn't that what Bitcoin was initially designed for? Can you tell me about that?
100%. I think you put it so much better than I could. And that's exactly that use case, right? The government's printing trillions of dollars, and people starting to realize, maybe it's all fake money. Let's do another model, so we have a decreasing money supply over time. But let's also not be too optimistic or too much believing into what all the crypto guys are saying. This is still an experiment. We don't know how Bitcoin will react, and it's definitely not investment advice, and you need to be careful. I mean, I think that is very important for us as documentarians or media people or journalists to also mention.
Yeah, I know that there's been a lot of talks about the market being manipulated, but by what they call whales, or people with the majority of Bitcoin, and they really dictate if it goes up or down. But fundamentally, the idea of a limited supply of money where there's never any more created, isn't that the attraction to what Bitcoin has to offer right now?
100%. So that's the whole digital gold aspect. So especially the Bitcoin maximalist, the BTC fans, which is by far the biggest and most interesting project, they are buying into this theory. There's a intellectual basis for it. It's called the stock to flow ratio. It's a whole economic model behind it. And you're absolutely right. But I mean, there's also other use cases, right? Some people say, well, maybe we should use cryptocurrency as a means of a medium of exchange, right? Or then there's the Ethereum people who build smart contracts on top of it. So the story is much larger than just Bitcoin, but Bitcoin certainly has the brand power and the digital gold aspect to it.
How is it that Bitcoin connects with the blockchain? And can you give our viewers an overview of what exactly a blockchain is?
Yeah, so a blockchain is a database that is not centralized somewhere where all the transaction or all the data is stored in a central server. It's basically a database which is distributed on tens of thousands of computers. So basically you're getting rid of the middleman. You're getting rid of the central banks or banks. That's the kind of the idea behind Bitcoin. And then people have run with that idea saying, oh, this blockchain thing, can't we use it for something else? Can't we replace Google? Can't we replace advertising or media companies? And that's the whole story of Web 3.0, which is a little part of my documentary as well.
And we want to get into your documentary. We're going to split this interview up into two parts. And the second part will be more into how you made the film and where you went. But for right now, I just wanted to give our viewers an overview of what is Bitcoin and what are its uses. How are you finding that Bitcoin is being used for good, if it is at all?
Yeah, so I have a couple of little stories in the film as well. So you always hear about the stories where Bitcoin is being used for illegal purposes, right, to buy drugs on the internet. And for sure, there's that element. But let's not forget, there's also plenty of good use cases. So a famous example is the lady in Afghanistan who makes money blogging, and she gets paid in Bitcoin, and she controls that wallet herself rather than her husband, who is maybe abusing her, who doesn't allow her to get access to her bank accounts, because as a woman, you're not allowed to have access to your bank account. So in these kind of cases, being able to control the money that you own is one of the fundamental use cases for Bitcoin.
And I also understand that Bitcoin is also being used for charities and raising money for nonprofits. Are you familiar with any of that?
Yeah, for sure. That's been even 6 years ago, there's many initiatives like this. And then again, that's an interesting use case for the blockchain, because the blockchain is a public ledger. So the blockchain that I run on my computer and that are run on many mining computers can be seen everywhere. So you can see that wallet by that charity. Where does the money go to? How much does come in? Which is very much different from our other charities, right? They're taking money and we don't really know what's happening to that.
So there's a transparency associated with blockchain where you can't fudge the numbers. And what I understand is that every time a transaction takes place, it's recorded on computers around the world, so no one could fudge the numbers as a central bank might be able to do, for instance.
100% correct. And a little funny story in the film is, so we do talk about the drug markets, right? People using Bitcoin for drugs. But the funny story is that guy who allegedly ran the Silk Road was caught by the FBI. And then the prosecutor could see that these Bitcoins were still moving on the blockchain, because you can see it move. So the head of the prosecution looked into it, and it could see those Bitcoins being moved slightly oddly, and they could basically see that there's two FBI agents who kind of took the money for their own purposes and try to sell it and buy a house with it. So basically, the blockchain was used for catching a bad cop who caught the Silk Road operator.
Catching the good bad guys, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, we want to have you back on our next episode. You're going to hear about how Torsten made this movie. You're going to find out who the nefarious characters are, where he went, like 4 different continents, and how it was all made. But for right now, Torsten, amazing job. Can't wait to see the film. How can people buy this film? And what's the name of it?
It's cryptopiafilm.com. It's available on my website, about $5. We do like the big platforms. What we don't like that they take 50% of our money. So that's why support independent filmmakers. Go directly to the source, cryptopiafilm.com. I'm sure you agree with that message.
That's what we want to talk about in our next episode. But for now, I'll bid you adieu. And here's to you. Thank you so much, Torsten.
Thanks.